Hi, um, this is Polly, and it's been a long time since I've been on here. Um, I used to post on YouTube uh, for several years, and it, and then about a year and a half ago, a year to year and a half ago, I stopped abruptly, which wasn't something unheard of for me because I had such a difficult time with it. But a year and a half was a lot longer than the normal amount of times that I would disappear. So I've been trying to come back. I've been trying to get back on here, and it's I've just been having a lot of problems trying to do that. I'm very not clear-minded. I've, I'm I'm very confused. I'm very like fuzzy-headed, and this is really hard. I'm very disorganized. My mind is really disorganized and confused. And I did not used to be like this. I mean, I had these symptoms, I've had them my whole life, but nowhere near to this degree. There was a time in my life when I was much more productive, much more normal. I used to have dreams, like most people do. Um, I went to college. I graduated with honors. I even wrote an honors thesis, and I traveled to Europe. The thesis was on a figure, an English figure, so I went to Europe and I studied there, and I ended up being only one of 7 in my class who actually wrote an honors thesis. There were maybe 30, 35 people who started out to do it, and 7 of us finished. So I credit myself with that, with having had the desire and the follow through to do that. And then I went to grad school, and I graduated from grad school. And again, I graduated with honors. I think I had like a 3.5, somewhere between a 3.5 and a 3.8 GPA out of 4 points. So, but while I was in grad school, I had something happen where I had a mental breakdown. Cognitive, mental isn't cognitive. Mental is a very general word, and it was a cognitive breakdown. It wasn't even emotional. I didn't feel emotional. I just couldn't make sense out of things. When I would read something, it didn't make sense. It was like a bunch of words that I could read out loud, but they didn't make any sense. It was like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And when that happened, I was about 23 years old, and by the time I graduated, it took me an extra year to graduate because I got behind after I had that breakdown. But I did graduate, and that was in 1992. I finished in 1992, and so I graduated with the graduating class, I believe, in 1993. I didn't go, and it's a little fuzzy, but and then something else very profoundly changed my life. And it was a huge betrayal on the part of my mother, a huge betrayal, horrible, cruel act, which included them shaming me for having for having had that breakdown in grad school. My mom and my dad both, because they told me I should never admit to anybody that I had a master's degree because I didn't earn it, because I had a breakdown, and they refused to celebrate my graduation My brother, who was 7 years older than me and had dropped out of college, had gone back and eventually, and he graduated, it turns out, the same year that I did. He graduated from college the same year I graduated from grad school, and we were going down to Indianapolis to have um, to visit our relatives and also to have a graduation party. Only my mom told me on the way down, at a rest stop on the way down, she pulled me aside and told me that we were not going to celebrate my graduation, that we were only going to celebrate my brother's graduation, that mine didn't matter. And I can't remember if the shame conversation that they gave me was before that or after that. But I lost it when she said that. I lost it, and I just was so infuriated and hurt. Although that was nothing new for my mom, it was a new low, but my mother has been cruel to me since I was just a little kid, little tiny kid even, really. But actually, about 11 is when it got really bad. When my brother actually left the house and went to college, she always loved my brother, and I was so much like my dad, and she hated my dad. My dad cheated on her, and she hated him for it. And because I was like him, we were both dreamers, and she despises dreamers. She considers herself practical, and she considers my brother practical, but because my dad and I were dreamers, she just had no use for us. She's told me she has no respect for dreamers, and she saw me as being like him. I never cheated on her, but I never did anything wrong, I don't think. Maybe little things, but rarely even that, because she was always accusing me of being bad, and I was always trying so hard to prove to her that I really wasn't, that I became perfectionistic, and I became this little kid who would bring her gifts. I would buy her gifts. I would try to buy her love. I would always try to do things. I became obsessed with trying to prove that I was innocent, of being a bad kid. She started telling me I was bad at the age of 3, and I never had any confidence. I never did, and I didn't know enough to realize that there was anything wrong with it. I was little, and I never had any social skills. I had no friends. I was a broken little kid. I was a broken little kid, or damaged anyway. Nowhere near as broken as I am now, but I was a damaged little kid. And the year that my brother left for college, my mom became very depressed. She went through empty nest syndrome, even though one of her 2 children was still at home and was 7 years away from going to college. But she became really hateful and really wicked. And every morning, if I didn't wake up on my own, which I never could seem to wake up on my own, I mean, this was my senior year of high school, I believe. She would kick my door in. She literally kicked my door in so that it broke the lock and it would never lock. She would kick it in and just seethe at me, "It's time to get up!" And that was every morning. And that's her. She's very mean and very hateful. And she was mean and hateful to my dad. And he escaped it by sleeping during the day, and getting up at night when she was asleep, and being at work. And I didn't have a way to escape it, really. Well, I went to school, and even though I was picked on at school, I was fat even then. So, I was never, I mean, I never was popular. I wasn't that liked, but I still preferred being at school to being home because she was a lot scarier and it hurt a lot more. I'm going to interject and interrupt myself and say that one of the reasons I didn't post on here for a long time was because I wanted to have something positive to say, and I wanted to not just be constantly complaining and crying, and I mean that literally, and not so broken. I wanted to, if I was going to post something where I was broken, I wanted to also post something that was more positive, even if it was like a news story about something else going on, anything other than just this constant stream of brokenness that I've been experiencing, but most especially over the last decade. But I could not, I found myself not posting because I couldn't think clearly enough to do that. I'm still in this emotionally broken place. So I'm just warning you, I'm still there. I'm so broken, and more, I really wanted to post sooner, but in less than 2 weeks, on September 9th, a week from Saturday, I'm going to be 50. And nobody really likes to age. Nobody wants to turn 50. I mean, it beats the alternative, but nobody wants to turn 50. It's just that I've done nothing with my life. I've been so broken, and I just spend all my time and energy trying to survive, trying to pick myself up again. Here I am, I'm crying. See, I didn't want to come back on here and just do this, but I'm still in the same place, and I feel like I have a little more conviction than I did before. I really do. I feel like I have more conviction to try and expose what's been happening in the last decade. But otherwise, I'm in the same place, and I'm still broken, and I'm still fighting to find anybody who will help me. And it's just amazing that nobody will help me. I have literally turned to hundreds of people. When I say hundreds of people, I mean people and places who have the potential to help me. Agencies and doctors and people, places who have authority, places who, many of whom it's their job to help people. But with me, that this is so far removed from anything anybody has ever seen, I think. I don't know how I ended up in this position where I'm so broken and it's so unusual. It's an unusual presentation of broken. I know there are a lot of broken, wounded, injured people out there, but mine is so different, and it's so psychological, and it comes from such, the place where it comes from is so different. And I think mainly is because it's so different because I'm going to be 50, and I still haven't been able to break free of the claws of my mother, whom I'm speaking not very nicely of her, which it's not unusual, but we are embattled right now. We are embattled again. And I'm desperately, desperately doing anything I can to try and break free of her grasp. I actually posted a song, the very last thing I posted over a year ago, the very last thing I posted was a song that I had written. I wrote it when I was 29. I was living in Saginaw, Michigan, and I wrote it and I played it and I sang it. The one that I the one that I posted, I had recorded about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but I wrote that song, and I wrote it about my life, and I wrote it about being a child, being an adult child who has never been able to break free of her mother's grasp and be independent and live a normal life. This is where I differ from everybody else. Most adults are not, we're not broken in this way as children. And if they did, they rebelled. Other people, most people, they rebel against their parents. Instead of rebelling against them, I went a different way, and that was just to try and be better. Every time they would tell me I was bad, every time they would tell me that I ruined their lives and that I deserved to suffer or whatever I deserved, you know. And they told me stuff like that a lot. Every time they treated me like I was a bad person, I tried to become better. I tried to be better. I believed them. I believed them because those messages started coming into me at the age of 3. And I didn't socialize. I never learned to socialize properly. I really never socialized properly until I went to college. And somehow, college was great. Somehow, everything clicked. And I had 4 amazing, wonderful, happy years that I hope I never forget. 4 years where I did socialize really well. For the most part, I did have certain childlike tendencies that, you know, an immaturity, I guess, an immaturity that was more reminiscent of a much younger child. You know, if I was a child of 17, say, I kind of stopped progressing at about 10 in my life, or 11. I think probably when my mom became so mean when my brother went to college. I mean, she changed. She was not great before, but she was vindictive and merciless. And, you know, I love my mother. I can't help it. I love her. And I don't want to hurt her, and I don't want to betray her, even though she has no problem hurting me, no problem betraying me, and no problem turning everybody else against me. She has no problem sabotaging my life so that every time I do reach out and I try to get help, she intervenes and she turns the people against me and they withdraw their help. She, for some reason that I don't understand, she is keeping me dependent on her and not letting me become an adult. And she's never let me become an adult, and I've never been able to break free of her. And of course, I'm broke. I have no career. I have no savings. I have no money. I'm dependent on her for my money. I'm dependent on her for my life. And in the most possible sense that it can be, my mother owns me. I am owned by her. I am under her thumb. I never was able to break free of this that she keeps me in. And I'm not allowed to get angry. I'm not allowed to feel anger. I'm not allowed to feel hurt when somebody does something to hurt me. If I get angry, she gets angry at me for getting angry, which is weird because why is she allowed to get angry, right? I don't know. But my brother can get angry. My mother can get angry. My father could get angry. If I get angry, I am instantly punished. I am shunned. I am abandoned. Even when my dad was in the hospital and he was dying, my mother and my brother abandoned me. And my aunt and my uncle. They and I had a difference of opinion on whether or not to pull the plug on a man who had just awoken from a coma. I didn't think that was a great idea. I kind of thought that was mean. But my mother wanted him gone. She hated his guts and she wanted him gone. And my uncle and my aunt had already decided that he was going to die, and it was extremely inconvenient that he was lingering. How rude of him. So I went to visit my dad by myself. We didn't occupy the same room. We didn't occupy the same car. They weren't speaking to me. And I was tremendously hurting at that point because my dad, even though he was mean to me, and he was the only person who was ever really, I ever could bond with. And sometimes he was nice. If things hadn't gone the way they went, I think he would have been a nice guy. And he was sometimes. He was. And I loved my dad. And I think that my dad loved me. My brother and my mother are not capable of loving me because for some reason I am unlovable. They've made that very clear. They've made that extremely clear. And I'm at a point in my life where all the friends I have made in my life, I have lost. A lot of it because I pulled away from them because I became so clinically avoidant, so fearful, so unable to communicate, interact, and this guilt that they deserve better than me. They do deserve better than me. I feel like I did not used to feel that way. We used to be friends, and we were friends. We were there for each other, but then that moment happened after I graduated. Oh, the moment happened after I graduated where my mother and my father told me to be ashamed and to never admit to anybody that I got that graduate degree. And my mother still holds that mental breakdown I had against me, which was because of her. I had it because of her. She, for some reason, decided that I was sexually abused by my roommate, which never happened. My roommate was my mother's age. My roommate was my apartment mate in grad school. She was my mother's age. And I saw her as a mother figure. And due to a financial reason, which is not at all unlike my mother, due to a financial reason, this woman betrayed me. This is stuff that happens to people. It happens. It happens to us. Actually, I think it's probably happened to everybody in life. But for me, it just, because of the relationship being so much like a mother-daughter relationship, and with all the complications of it and everything, it was the stupidest thing to have a breakdown over. Stupid, stupid, stupid. But I did, and the consequences of it were that my family hated me for it, and they looked down on me for it, and they told me that I should be ashamed of having had it. They never understood it, but that is just how dysfunctional our family was. Nobody in our family was happy. Everybody in our family was absolutely miserable. And the thing that makes me so angry, the thing that makes me hurt so much, is that they adopted me. And they adopted my brother. And they brought us into this hell. They adopted two little infants. In 1960, they adopted my brother. And in 1967, they adopted me. And everything was good, I guess, for my brother before they adopted me. My brother hates me. I think that in a weird way he loves me, but I don't know. He hates me so much because he said I ruined his life because I stole his mother from him. I don't know because, I was 8 weeks old. I don't know. I don't have any memories of that time. I just know that my mother and my father adopted me, and they brought me into this home where they didn't love each other. My mother never loved him. She just told me a couple of years ago she never loved him. They were never close, and I don't understand why they were married. But they were horrible together. Awful. It was a hateful marriage, hateful household. But they took me, and they took my brother. I don't know that he'd agree with that, but they took us away from. They stole from each of us a chance to have been loved by a family who would have loved us, who could have loved us. And that, in the last few years, has hit me so strongly, first of all, which this never used to bother me. It never bothered me that I was adopted, that I was, given up for adoption, because I was chosen by somebody else. And to me, that was great. Okay, somebody didn't want me, but somebody else did. I mean, they picked me. I mean, I get they had a choice of one, but they wanted a girl. There was a girl available. They picked the girl, right? This is after they chose my brother, but 7 years later. But so I never had a problem with that. Some people, they had a hard time with the fact that they were given up as babies or, children. Certainly as older children, I could understand that. But there had been no bond in my case, with my birth mother. So I had no problem. I never had any kind of psychological or anything problem about having been put up for adoption, having been abandoned by my birth parents, my birth mother. And I was a child of sin, actually. I was the result of an affair. This is what my dad was told. I was the product of an affair between my mother and her boss, who was either an attorney or a businessman. And back in those days, abortion was not legal, and abortion was not all that common. And so my birth mother had me. She carried me to term, and she gave birth to me. And I had apparently she had children, like half brothers and sisters or whatever to me. But she wanted to try and work out her marriage and her family life, and so she, it wouldn't be a great thing to bring me into that. So, like I said, I never had any psychological anything with that. Never had a super strong desire to look her up or anything. That part was pretty easy for me. And my parents, my adoptive parents, they handled that beautifully. They did. They didn't wait and spring that on me at some point where I was shocked to find out that I was adopted. They told me at such a young age, and they made it so positive that I had been chosen by them. They made it so positive that I was proud to be adopted. And I don't ever remember a time when I didn't know about it, which is absolutely the best way to do it. Absolutely. I don't remember ever not knowing. And they made it seem like a wonderful thing. And, I do remember some of my earliest memories. I remember having a very loving relationship with my mother and my father. I remember my dad would come home. Sorry. My dad would come home from work, and he would say to me, "You remember how much I loved you yesterday? Well, I love you even more today." And my mom, and I remember saying to her, I was a little kid, so I didn't really understand the complexities of this. So I would say, "I don't like you. I love you." And I meant it. She was very doting and very loving. And actually, the problem there for my brother may have been that it may just have been regular sibling issues. He's not the only child anymore. But knowing my mother and knowing how, but my brother and I have never been able to be close because this is such an issue for him. He told my mom that he hasn't had a mother since the day they adopted me. And she told me that he has not had a mother since the day they adopted me. She blames me for my brother's unhappiness. And I don't see how I could possibly be the problem there. I was 8 weeks old. How can they blame me? And I can see how a little boy, a 7-year-old boy, would blame his baby sister. And he wouldn't want to blame his mother because she's his mother. But I don't see how my mother can blame an 8-week-old baby that she adopted for taking her attention away from her son, the baby's older brother. I mean, that's her fault. That is 100,000% her fault. I get that. I do see that. And it hurts me when she tells me that I'm the problem. And when my whole family came in, when I was, just really, really young, I mean, like 10, 11, 12, 13, all through there, that I was the problem in the family. I wasn't. I mean, I guess maybe I was, but it wasn't because I did anything wrong. I was busy trying to be perfect. Well, up to a certain age, I wasn't. I was a typical kid, and I tattled on my brother, and like I remember one time he wanted to sled, and he wanted to, or no, he wanted the sled wax for something other than sledding. And I was a bratty little sister, like a typical bratty little sister would be to um, a jerky older brother. But in this case, it was me, because I immediately decided that I wanted to go sledding, and I wanted the sled wax. I only wanted it because he wanted it, and so I ran out in the garage. He was looking for it, and I ran out there and I grabbed it up and I ran inside, and I was probably 6, maybe 6, 7. This is before all the hatefulness started. And anyway, so I went in and I told my mom, and she quit before my brother could get in the house. He had to go around the whatever was in the garage. Probably the car was in there. Later, we didn't have room for a car, but he went around that, and by the time he got in the house, my mom had hid it for me. I was being a brat. That was me completely being a brat. I'd never used sled wax. Probably needed it, but I had never used it, and I only wanted it because he wanted it, and I got to it first. So I was like a normal, bratty little sister up till that point that everything changed. And then being told repeatedly and being punished repeatedly for things I wasn't doing or things I couldn't control. Some of it neurological, or at least it certainly appeared and appears, because I still have it, to be neurological. And I've had that my entire life, going way back to kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher told my mother that there was something wrong in the old noggin, that there was something not right about me, and that she needed to take me to a social worker. And my mom said, no child of mine is going to a social worker. And so instead of getting me help, she just decided that if my daughter is acting like she doesn't remember something, or she's acting like she's not paying attention, well, that's an unwanted behavior, because I want her to pay attention. I want her to remember things. So my mother's understanding of how you deal with that is you punish. If you're getting a behavior you don't want, you punish it. So I would get punished for things over which I had absolutely no control, medical things. And, starting at 3 and 4 years old, when I was wetting the bed and was being punished every day, because that's when it started. Actually, those are my earliest memories, so it could have started before that. Wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I sure had a lot of black eyes when I was little, but little tiny 3 and 4, but I suppose that's probably normal. I always wondered, though, is there always pictures of me with a black eye? But I don't remember it. But just anyway, she every morning she would spank me and tell me that I was naughty because I wet the bed, which in her mind there was only one reason why I would wet the bed. This blows my mind. But this is the way my mother thought. It's still today the way my mother thinks. She thought that I, a 3 or 4-year-old child, it was in 1971, so I was 3 turning 4, I don't know what month, and I don't know how long it lasted, but I would wet the bed. She would get up, she would spank me, she would always say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. That never turned out to be true. That turned out to be so untrue. I can't tell you how untrue that statement was, because this still hurts me today. Not the being spanked. That does not hurt me. What hurts me was learning from her that I was bad, that I was just bad, and that it was because I was too lazy. This is what she told me every morning, that I was too lazy to get out of bed and go to the bathroom. I was a lazy 3-year-old. Have you ever heard of that? If you have a lazy 3-year-old, then either A, something is wrong with your 3-year-old. They're not being lazy. They're sluggish, lethargic. They need to go to the doctor. Or B, something is wrong with you for thinking that. There's no such thing as a lazy 3-year-old. But she thought I was just being lazy. And every day she would tell me I was naughty. And I learned that. And I always believed that I was bad. I always believed I was bad. That's where this psychology comes from, this fear of being bad, this constant obsession with trying to be good, with trying to be moral. If you notice, my YouTube name is Choosing Morality. This is where this comes from. Everything is about morals for me. Every other word name I have just about is about morality or goodness or it's innocence. It's always that. That's my fundamental goal in life, is to be good and to finally stop being deserving of punishment. And so, but that's where everything kind of went awry, I think, because instead of the typical response that a child would have to being punished for something, they would build up this rage, and I did, but I wasn't allowed to express it, and I wasn't allowed to be angry, or my mother would just shun me and wouldn't speak to me for weeks at a time, except on Sunday at church when she would pretend like I was and tell people that I was an absolute delight. Incredibly two-faced and incredibly dishonest, and it's something I absolutely detest. But I'd rather she would have just been honest and said, I hate my kid. You know? I mean, I wouldn't want to hear that, but the honesty would have been nice. But for some reason, instead of rebelling and running away, I didn't feel like that was an option. I was too helpless. I was a child. I was stunted about age 10 or 11. And at age 15, 16, 17, I still felt like I was 10 years old. And so my way of trying to deal with this was to just be better. I've got to try and be better. Well, I was bad again. I did something bad again. I've got to be better. I've got to do better. I've got to be even more moral. I've got to be even more right. I've got to show my mom that I'm good. I've got to show my dad that I'm good. I've got to show my brother that I'm good. I've got to show my teachers that I'm good. I've got to show the people at church that I'm good. I've got to show everybody that I'm good because everybody thinks I'm bad. And I became really dysfunctional. And I am profoundly dysfunctional. And I am vulnerable to everybody, everywhere, because I have no concept of what it means for me to be good. I understand morality. I understand ethics. I understand what it means to be morally good and right and noble and to do the right things and to be sinful and to be evil and wicked. And I know what that is. I mean, those are there's no shades of gray there. I mean, there probably is, but I understand those extremes, and I don't have trouble with that. Where I have trouble is understanding if I'm being bad, because there has always been a different set of rules for me, and it has made me vulnerable. It has made me, it's given me this incredible lack of confidence and this fear of being bad, fear of doing something wrong. And believe me, the world exploits that. The world constantly exploits that. And to this day, I'm going to turn 50 in 2 weeks. I have to depend on everybody else to tell me whether I'm being bad or not, because if what I do and am punished for, other people would not be punished for if they did it. And I'm so confused with that. I don't think it's fair, but I am powerless to change it. So there's this whole psychological mess in my head, this whole psychological trauma, and I can't. And it's why I'm so different from everybody else. I didn't do the typical uh, rebellious thing, and I can't. Worse, I can't even medicate myself with drugs or alcohol or um, a sex addiction or anything like that, because I have to be pure. I have to be innocent. I have to be noble. I have to be good. I have to be moral. I have to be. I can't do those things. I can't let myself do those things. It's not just about not being punished anymore. It's about this inner fear of being bad. Even if nobody else knew I did something bad, if I did something bad, and it's really gotten bad in the last 10 years. This has really gotten out of control in the last 10 years. But it's been there, and I haven't been perfect, but I've probably been closer to perfect than nearly anybody else, because I've felt like I have to be, and yet that's not how people see me. Everything I do, and how weird I've gotten because I'm so focused on trying to be good, has just made me more different than people, and it's made people misunderstand me. People do not understand me. I'm still being punished. I'm still being punished constantly. And I've got so much rage in me now, so much rage built up in me that I'm not allowed to express, that comes just, it's leaking out of me. I can't keep it in. It's exploding out of me, and I can't control it. I'm trying to control it, and then it explodes out of me, and I get myself back under control, and then bam, again, it's exploding out of me, and that just makes people angrier, and sometimes it's completely misplaced, and sometimes I really should be raging at them, and I can't, because that would be bad. I learned that would be bad. So everybody mistreats me because they see me. Who wants to meet a 50-year-old or have to deal with a 50-year-old, back a 41-year-old, 42-year-old, 43-year-old, 44-year-old, who behaves more like acts more like a misbehaving child. And when I say child, I don't mean, in some ways, I'm very mature. And in fact, in some ways, I'm more mature than most people, in some ways, because I have suffered so much, and because I've spent so much time trying to ponder my existence and my place on this earth, which I've never been able to find. And so, okay, I kind of lost my train of thought. Still do that. I'm childlike, though. I'm very childlike because I was stunted. I was stunted at 10, 11 years old. And there's a part of me that is still there. And in fact, there's a part of me now that actually goes into tirades when things get completely out of control, and I feel powerless, and I feel frustrated, and I feel angry, and I feel powerless, and punished, and beaten down, and berated, and I have no control over it, and I have no power over it, and I'm not even allowed. I can't even allow myself to do something that I think is bad. But this comes off as bad. It comes out as bad because I run out in traffic and try to get myself hit by a car. It's very childish, that aspect of it. And worse, actually, in a way, is that, well, no, that's bad. That's really bad. And at the time, I don't want to die, but at the same time, I do want to get hit by a car. I would rather not die, but I'm willing to die because I really do want to be hit by that car in that moment. And it's not fair to the people in the car. I realize that. But this all goes... I never used to do this. I never used to be like this. This didn't start until I was well into my 40s. It didn't start until a few years ago, after I was arrested for something I didn't do based on a false accusation. It wasn't true. It should have been not a big deal because I had proof of it, and I have proof of it, and but I was never allowed to show proof of my innocence. I was never allowed. Nobody would ever listen to me. I was never given a voice. My voice has been stolen from me again and again and again and again and again and again, and I could just go on and on. And if I sat here for 10 hours and said again and again and again and again and again straight, I probably wouldn't get to the number of times that my voice, I feel anyway, that my voice has been stolen from me or silenced. It's gotten so bad that I have written messages in chalk on streets, pleading for somebody to help me. Please help Polly. Hoping they could find Polly. I mean, there aren't that many Pollys, so I was hoping they could find me. It just got erased, just got washed off. Nobody went and looked into it. Please help Polly. Please help me. Please help me. You guys have seen numerous. I've put up like 100 and some videos pleading for help, crying because I'm in pain. I have no way to resolve this pain, and it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. I at one point it was so bad that I had to get a guardian. Before that, it had gotten to a point that was so bad that I stopped being able to speak. I could not speak with my mouth. I had to write my end of conversation on paper because anything I said would infuriate people, and they would punish me, or they would scold me, or they would get angry with me, and that made me feel that I had done something wrong. And that's my greatest fear. That and never getting to have a chance at my life. I lived 4 incredibly wonderful years in college. I was so happy, and life was great. And in grad school, it was less great, but I still had a couple of good years in there, and I made some friends, and I had some fun. And by fun, I don't mean partying, because I was not somebody who ever partied. I never did drugs. I never drank alcohol, and I never had sex until I was in my 40s. I had chances, but I never did it because I was so afraid it would make me bad. I became terrified of anything that would be considered bad, and I refused to go that far. I would do something up to that point, but for me, that was where I drew the line. I'm not going to have sex with somebody. I'm not going to do that because that would make me bad, and I was so afraid of that. And I finally gave up after I got arrested. It was kind of like nothing matters, And I kind of did then. I had my teenage rebellion at age 45, I think, or 44. At 44 years old, I believe, is when I actually started rebelling. And I did drink on an occasion, actually. I mean, and I actually got drunk, and I had never been drunk before. I'm rambling here, and it's getting really long, so I need to wrap it up. But I know most people aren't going to watch this because it's so damn long, but it feels good to get it out. It really feels good to get it out. I feel so pent up. I just hope I can get it to post. Something usually gets in the way of me being able to post, me being able to do anything, me being able to communicate. It's this curse, but hopefully I will. Anyway, I actually got myself drunk, and stumbled around in my backyard, enjoying it for a couple of weeks. What provoked that was actually the coming up on the 1-year anniversary of my dad's death, and feeling powerless to expose the truth about how he died, which actually didn't have to do with my mom and my brother abusing me. I won't say abusing, but it seemed abusive to me, shunning me, and So I drank, and then I saved all of the alcohol bottles, liquor bottles, and I put them in a bag in my mom's storage, file cabinet, hoping that she would see them and realize that I needed help. I was crying out for help. When I wrote those help messages all over town in chalk, on driveways, windowsills of businesses, places that would be relevant, and places that weren't so relevant, on the curbs, everywhere. That's all I could do to try and plead for help. That didn't work. I tried standing in two different places. I couldn't talk at that time. At those times, I could not speak with my voice. But I stood and I held a sign up pleading for help. I stood on Front Street, the most trafficked street in our town, and in the main part of town, the most trafficked place I could think of, where people were going slowly enough to stop and interact with me, and that was on public land so that I wouldn't be kicked off of private property, or, like, I thought about Walmart and I thought, no, they'll just kick me out. So I stood on Front Street and pleaded for help, holding signs, pleading for help, for someone to give me a voice. Even one time I wore my dog's shock collar, pleading for somebody to help me have a voice because I was dying inside. I've done so many things pleading for help. I wrote crazy messages all over my walls of my trailer, half of my trailer, all of the walls in one room, all of the walls in the hallway in the hallway, period, actually, and in the bathroom, covered with messages pleading for help. I wrote those in chalk also, and they had to be painted over, and I was punished for that. I wasn't helped. Nobody said, gee, maybe we ought to help her. I was scolded for that. It was inconvenience. I was scolded by a worker whom it got so bad, I was locked up in an AFC home, 3 AFC homes. I was kicked out of 2 of the 3, and then I got that trailer, and I didn't have a voice. At that point, I was so broken. But, I didn't start there. I didn't start with all this craziness. I started where any rational, sane person would start. And it just built and built. Nobody helped me, 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 until I had to try and do drastic things to get people to help me, outrageous things. That, as it turns out, make people think you're crazy, and when you're crazy, they don't listen to you. Here's the catch. They weren't listening to me before. But now they won't listen to me, and they think I'm crazy, and it's documented, basically, that they think I'm crazy. And so I have no credibility, and I still have no help, and I still have nobody to help me have a voice, and I still can't break free of my mom, and I'm so broke. And, oh, by the way, I crashed my car, and I totaled my car. Turns out I was being overmedicated on the Ambien and didn't know it was the Ambien. Was making me so confused, more and more confused, more and more confused. I was losing time. I didn't know that wasn't me because I kind of had losing time issues from the time I was in elementary school, but it was so exacerbated on this Ambien. Turns out a lot of other people have had missing time on the Ambien. But I blacked out while I was driving. I totaled my car, and so then I became dependent on my mother again, because by this time I had moved into a little house in a sweet little subdivision that is nowhere near town and is too far to be on the bus route. And I have no way to get around but to have my mom drive me around. And while she does, she scolds me and she berates me and she belittles me until it's building in me and it's building in me. And I feel like, and I have to stuff it in because I'm not allowed to get angry. And she's allowed to get angry. And she's constantly telling me what a drain I am on her funds, which I am, because I never could become independent. And when I do try to become independent, she calls these places and she has repeatedly sabotaged every effort I made to get help. She would get them to unhelp me. She would tell them things, get them so angry at me that they would treat me like crap. She has turned everybody against me. My mother has. And my dad did by the end too. And there's nobody in this whole world who can stand me because this is how I end up. I'm crazy. I'm not really, but I am. This is crazy. This is me being crazy. Because I'm being desperate. Desperate equals crazy. Now, am I actually insane? No. No, I'm very rational. I just am pushed beyond any limit that I can handle. I'm broken, and I'm yearning so much to not die before I live at least a little bit of my life. More than the 4 years or 6, I don't even have any memories. I have no memories to look back on from this entire decade, except for ones that there were some early on in chorus, that now are tainted because of the horrendous bullying that went on in there, horrendous bullying, which nobody would help me with, and I actually went up the ladder, chain of command, I went through the proper channels, nobody would help me with, they turned everybody against me, but I was so vulnerable. It's so easy to do when, I mean, how could bullies resist bullying somebody that when they say something hurtful, bursts into tears in front of them? I mean, it's a gift. I'm a gift to all bullies. So have at it, bullies. I know you're going to bully me in this. I just need help. Nobody will help me. Nobody will give me the time to prove what I have been able to prove, can prove, but am never given the chance to prove. Nobody will have the patience, and nobody is willing to take the time. And I do have one ally, my doctor, and I was able to prove to him. I was able to prove every step of that false accusation. I was able to prove everything before that, up until that, at that moment when I was accused, at that moment that I was arrested, even though I wasn't guilty. I was able to show what they found, what they thought they found, what happened, what they believed, how I had no way to defend myself. I was silenced in court. I was silenced before the judge. I was silenced by the very lawyers that my mother, of course, had to hire for me, which she uses against me. She uses everything she has to do against me, and she has to do everything for me, which she's more like doing to me. She has to do everything for me because she has kept me so broken. I'm so broken. I'm so broken. And I'm proud of myself that I didn't cry through this whole thing. That's it. I have written, I've journaled and journaled and journaled, and over the years, I've amassed about 16 notebooks that I've been able to find, filled up with writings about the same trauma over and over and over again, and I still can't get it out. And I can't get it out because it's unfinished business. It's a violation of my rights, a violation of my rights here and there and everywhere, and I have to live under rules that are so oppressive because nobody else has to live under them. I am punished for things nobody else is punished for. I'm expected to do things that nobody else is expected to do. I'm not allowed to do things that are good that other people are allowed to do. And I've never seen such a severe case. I'm sure they're out there. But I've never seen anything as severe as what I'm going through. I've never seen anybody as broken as I am. And instead of being something that tells people, wow, this girl, this woman, this person needs help because she's hurting and I can make a difference in her life, what they do is they're like, wow, an opportunity to be mean, an opportunity to be cruel and hurtful and to break her down some more. And so there it is. That's it. In a way, I am stronger than I was when I left here. I know I am. I'm stronger now than I was when I left here a year ago. I have more conviction to find some way to expose. And the best way would be the internet. I've just been too confused to be able to do the steps. I've always had problems with sequencing, which is doing a series of steps. Now, I've always had trouble with that. But usually it just would take me longer, and I was not concise. But I could still do it. And, but since this, I think the Ambien and some of these other psychotropic drugs, which are just fucking me over, and I'm sorry about that, they are. I'm confused, and I can't think straight, and I can't communicate in any way that's effective in any way. Not to, never mind the fact that nobody's going to listen anyway because it's all around town. Polly's a nut. So that's where I'm at. Again, like I said, I do plan to post all this other stuff that I wrote, and it probably will be just as much of a rant and as disorganized and as pleading, and I'll probably cry. Just fair warning, I'm definitely going to probably cry. Almost absolutely I'm going to cry. And yet I'm going to keep fighting because I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not going to die, if I can help it, having lived only a tragic life. And living 4 or 6 years of happiness out of an entire life, I've been alive almost half a century, to have only a very short window like that, 4 years, 6 years, 4 great years, 6 pretty decent years, and otherwise under the stress and pain and torture, because this is torture. This is emotional torment. It's emotional torture. And nobody understands, even my doctor, who is a great ally. He's a great ally and he's helping me. Even he does not understand. He tells me, other people have it worse than you do, Polly. Other people have it so much worse than you do. And then he actually told me about this guy he feels sorry for because he's getting a divorce. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, the guy's getting a divorce? No, not that. Sorry. Not that I don't feel sorry for people, because it is stressful. I'm sure it's stressful. But at least they've got millions of other people who understand it too. There is not one person, not one, who understands what I've gone through. There are empathizers. Almost all of them have been on here. None of them have been local or in my life in any, like my friends or anything. They don't get me. They don't get me. And if I say to my friends, well, except for one who witnessed my mother being a total brutal bitch, completely frigid bitch, actually, to me. Other than that one friend who witnessed it, and she actually said, oh my God, your mother is so mean. But other than her, if I try to share with my friends that my mother is mean to me, I have 3 friends, male friends, all of them, but they're like, no, come on, Polly. They think she's wonderful. You know why? Because she pretends like she's wonderful when they're around. They won't let me say that. They won't let me have a voice, and they won't let me tell them how she is, or they don't believe me. And I mean, it makes you feel crazy. It does make you feel crazy. I do feel crazy a lot. I feel less crazy when I'm not walked out on psychiatric drugs. They make you crazy. By the way, that's when this whole thing started. That whole big thing where my mom said, we are not going to celebrate your graduation. We're only going to celebrate your brother's graduation. The reason that was so traumatic, I didn't even finish that. The reason that became the most traumatic moment, I think possibly, or the fateful moment of my life, was because I became angry and she became angry at me. I remember I started walking down the interstate. We were in Indiana. We were halfway, or probably Indiana, so more than halfway to but I didn't know where we were. I just started walking down the interstate, got pulled over by an off-duty cop who was very nice, very, very nice. And he had me sit in his car with me, asked me what was wrong. No pedestrians are allowed in the middle of the highway, sorry. Weird rule we have in Indiana. But, and my parents followed me, and neither of them would speak to me. They were both seething because how dare I get angry when they tell me that I don't matter, when they constantly show me that I don't matter. So I made this, I was so broken, I was so hurt, and we got back home. My mother would not speak to me. My mother was fuming, and my mother is the scariest person. She is a dragon. When she is angry, her nostrils get huge, and she grows fangs and talons, and she seethes, and you can feel it from any room in the house. She had a dog that, because she was so angry at me, the dog hung out with me downstairs to get away from my mother. And if my mother came downstairs, her dog went upstairs. And if she went back upstairs, her dog came back downstairs, because of the amount of stress that my mother, the anger and the hostility that my mother exuded into the air. And it was so oppressive. And I would just be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, she's coming, she's coming. I mean, literally, I would say that, oh my God, she's coming. No, oh my God, she's coming. And Taffy clearly felt the same way, because she did anything she could to escape being around my mother. But anyway, so jumped again. Anyway, I couldn't stand her shunning me like that and being angry at me. I was broken. I couldn't handle. That thing had broken me. It had really torn me up that they would even say that, let alone plan to celebrate my brother and tell me that my graduate school experience is a joke and I should be ashamed. But then she wasn't talking to me. My dad was angry at me, and the stress was so great, it was so profound, that I finally thought the only way that I could survive it was to apologize to tell my mother, I'm sorry, I need help, I'm sorry, it's my fault, I need help. I shouldn't have gotten angry. I need help, please help me, please help me. You know what she said when I said that? I don't want to talk about it now. I'm not talking about it now. Don't even talk to me about it. And it was months before she even got me help, reached out to get me help. Meanwhile, she continued to just break me down in little tiny itty bitty pieces, just collapsing on the floor by shunning me and just hating me and being cruel to me. And she despises me. She doesn't miss a chance to let me know how much this woman despises me, how much she regrets having adopted me, which she actually told me that she wished she hadn't adopted me. And she can't wish that as much as I do. I rue the day that they adopted me and brought me into that house of hell. But that's all I've got to say. I know I said that before. This time I mean it. I'm saving anything else for a different video. And thank you for helping me get riled up, because that's better than being... I mean, I am angry. I am angry. And I know that's bad when it comes to me, but it feels so good to let it out. And to not have to keep it up and just be this meek, broken person who isn't allowed to talk and doesn't have anybody to lean on for support at all. I have I just started talking again. Zero support system here. Zero support system here. In my country, zero. Not one person. Not one person. Like, oh no, one person. One person, my doctor. One person, my doctor. And he's wonderful. Like I said, he's told me to suck it up. He really thinks I'm exaggerating all this. I know it seems like I'm exaggerating things. It seems like there's no way, because you know what? There's no way that all this bad stuff could happen to one person. Everybody wouldn't be mean to this one person, because that just doesn't make sense, right? It's not them, it's got to be her, it's got to be me. If I'm this broken, it's got to be because I'm too sensitive, which I am. I am definitely too sensitive. But you know, when I was in college, people were a jerk to me occasionally. I had friends. I had a support system. You know how I reacted to that? I didn't get to the point where I would break down, run out in traffic, and want to kill myself. I would say, what a jerk. And it was over. That's how far I have fallen. This is how far I've fallen. And I scream at the top of my lungs. I'm not screaming words. I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm destroying my voice, which is important to me because I love to sing, which I'm not allowed to do in my chorus anymore. By the way, they just decided to kick me out, and even though I have been clinging to that chorus for 4 years, I'm still talking. I'm still talking. Even though I haven't been there in 4 years because the bullying was so severe, and I'm now almost less than 2 weeks away from my doctor talking to that judge, which I'm still trying to get that. I'm still trying to have my chance to speak before that judge, the chance that was not given to me because my lawyer silenced me, and I wasn't allowed to tell him what really happened, and I wasn't, okay, different story, different time. But I'm still trying to get there, and my doctor is going to talk to him. I begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded until I drove him crazy. And he finally agreed to do it. And we've been working on it. He's been letting me go to see him every 2 weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks. And he believes me because I was able to prove exactly what he's going to tell the judge. So that's good. That's good. Something good. I'm going to go. This is over an hour. It was supposed to be 20 minutes. 20 minutes, but the rage-filled ranting Polly took over, and I lost track of time. So, anyway, it feels good to get this out. I hope I can get it posted, because this will mean nothing if I can't send it anywhere. It will mean nothing if nobody sees it. I don't know what will happen if they do, but it'll mean absolutely nothing to alleviate my pain if I can't get this posted and people can't see it. So I do plan to post more. I have a lot to post. I want to try and do it in little pieces, little stories at a time, and stop, and then record again. So they're all separate recordings, and none of them get to be an hour long, which is insane. I'm not sure, like I said, that I can even post it. But that's it. So hope that's it. I hope that's it for now. And uh, oh no, I have one more thing to say in case I don't get on here again. I have one more thing to say, and this is important. This is very important. The only thing I can really see that can help me, the only solution I can see that I think will even work to help me with this situation with my mother, with my family, the situation, and beyond that, the situation with how I'm treated. But at the core of it is my family. The only solution I can see, and that I believe even exists, is Dr. Phil. Because of, second of all, the far-reaching, the way that you can, I want the truth to come out. I need the truth to come out because nobody knows the truth. People saw a bad child when I was a kid. They see a bad, horrible adult because that's what my mother tells them, and that's what it appears to be. And my brother, he doesn't even know I'm suffering. I don't think. He just thinks I'm lazy. He thinks I'm lazy. He has never seen me break down like this. Well, except when okay, I wasn't going to go there. But I need Dr. Phil. I need him so much. I have tried. I've written in several times. Every non-response is like a rejection, which wounds me more. That's true with everything and everybody. So every time I reach out and I don't get help, and especially if I reach out and then I'm treated badly, although that wasn't this case, but every time I reach out, it lowers me a little bit. I fall a little bit. I become weaker a little bit. And so reaching out is really hard. So I'm praying that there are people out there who will contact Dr. Phil for me. I will continue to do it, but I need people to contact him for me. You can go to drphil.com. There's a link at the top of the page that says Be on the Show, and you can fill out a form, and you can tell him, my name is Polly, and I've tried to get help before. I live in Traverse City, Michigan. I'm dying emotionally, and I'm sure my life has been shortened considerably in Traverse City, Michigan. It started before this, but it's been the worst here. But it's it's just where I'm at. Okay, so that sounds familiar. It's just where I'm at. So if there's anybody out there who could just write, it can just be a brief note, pleading with Dr. Phil to please help me because there's nobody else who can. I've tried. I mean, I can give him a list of hundreds of places I've contacted, and I can show him the contact, the emails, and the texts, and in their, I'm sure in their documentation as well, and that I've talked about and told other people about when I was trying to get help. And I've got recordings. I can show him so many of these places that I've reached out for help, and I'm sure they could tell him what an obnoxious person I am, pleading for help all the time when really I'm just a misbehaving child who's really old for a child. So if anybody could help me out with that, I know I'm getting kind of like crazy here. Crazy. I would love, for my 50th birthday, that's the pinnacle of birthdays. And that's always been how I've seen that. That's the pinnacle of birthdays. I remember my dad's 50th birthday. I remember my mom's 50th birthday. My mom actually cut the day out of the calendar on her birthday, and I've always thought, I was 12 at the time, and I decided I was going to do the same thing on my birthday, but I don't have the money to buy a calendar, and she's like, well, I've got this freebie one. I do want a calendar, a decent calendar to cut the day out of. No, I'm too disorganized to keep calendars. I use my iPhone to help me, keep track of stuff. But for my 50th birthday, I'm alone every Thanksgiving. I'm alone every Christmas. I'm shut off from the world. I'm completely isolated from all human contact, except for when I go to my doctor's appointment. And if I go get groceries, the clerk at the store. And my mother, who makes sure she beats me down to the point that I feel like apologizing for existing. And have many times. So I would love, and I don't even know if that is possible, but I would love to get a call on September 9th, on my birthday, saying, "This is Dr. Phil's producer. We'd like to talk to you. We'd like to consider putting you on the show." Actually, they could leave out the word consider. "We'd like to get you on the show." I'm fat, so I want to say that right now. I'm terrified of going on the show in front of national television. You have to understand how desperate I am. I want to just stay hidden in my house because I don't want to see myself on television. I would rather they would just, you know, put me in a room but I can't. Exploding with, I'm just exploding with pain and I can't take it. And Dr. Phil can and will help me. I mean, I don't know if he will, but if he would, he can help me and it would help me. I need neurological testing. I've needed it my whole life. I've never been able to get anything really, because you're fine. You're just not trying harder. So, anyway, if anybody out there would feel inclined, I would be so grateful. And you could maybe mention that my birthday is September 9th, and I would love a call. And I will try not to expect a call because I doubt that will happen. I have been contacted twice by Dr. Phil's producers, but I was not able to talk at that time, and I had a caregiver, and she only helped me once a week, and they wanted my information back the same day. And you see how this is an hour and 16 minutes, me trying to communicate? You should see all these notebooks. You should see how I rant, and I can't get to the point. I'm better than I was, but I do still need help. I just didn't have it then. I had it in bits and pieces. There was even a person on here who helped me, and I used some of her words, and I'm extremely grateful to her still. I just wasn't able to get it sent in time, and they get thousands and thousands of people contacting them wanting to be on the show, and I have seen some that truly need Dr. Phil. I have seen far more that I think, yeah, Dr. Phil will help them, but I wish he would have put somebody, if not me, somebody who is suffering as much as I am on, because they need him. These people will benefit from him. So many of these that, but there are people who Dr. Phil is their only hope. I am one of those people. Dr. Phil is my only hope. Dr. Phil is my only hope. But I can't even communicate well to explain the problem, to get past the producers. I'm just this crazy person who's trying too hard. So, anyway, if anybody feels so inclined, that would be a gift. I would be so grateful. I would be so grateful for anybody who would be willing to help me with that. If anybody actually watches this and or watches it to the end, if I can post it, I'm gonna go. Thank you, and thank you. Everybody be well. I'm gonna try to keep posting because this does feel really good, and I'm really sorry that I've been gone so long, and I was just crashing down again, and I just couldn't reach out again, so that keeps happening. I lost 10 years, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose the next 10. I'm afraid I'm going to find myself at my 60th birthday and still pleading for help. I've been pleading, you look back here, I've been pleading for help since I was like 44 years old, maybe earlier, but, okay. I need to go take a cold shower now. So that's it. So thank you, and God bless you all. Thanks. Thank you. I mean it. Thank you. It's not coming out right. Thank you. Thank you. I mean it, and I mean it so heartfelt, and I feel like I sound so robotic. I'm kind of in a weird mood right now. In a totally different mood than I started out, but I really do thank you guys, and I really have missed you guys, and I really hope to meet some new people and be able to reach out finally, I hope, again, that I haven't met, people I haven't met yet, and to people whom I've been interacting with before, or I'm hoping to get there. I'm really hoping to get there, but I do need help. I really do need help, and that's where I'll end because I'm rambling like crazy now. So okay, um, thanks a lot, and I'm gonna try to stop talking now, and I can't see.